Miyamoto Musashi, one of history's greatest swordsmen and a paragon of strength and wisdom. This is how he is remembered in legend, but what happens if we were to bring him into the present? That is the question Baki answers, and so of course, Baki's Miyamoto Musashi is who we shall discuss today. If you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing that bell, as I cannot explain to you how much just a small action can do for this channel. If you want to support this channel even further, then perhaps check out my Patreon. Anyway, on with the video. Baki throughout its long serialization has always been a series with a little bit of Japan bias. There is a common meme in the fandom that in a fight between a Japanese character and someone of another race, it is best to vote for the Japanese guy. And when we get to Baki, this is kind of flipped on its head, where we have a Japanese hero be revealed to be nothing more than a murderous lunatic. And although I'd love to say Baki is some anti-Japanese history hit piece, in reality the story of Musashi is less about Japan itself and more about the ideas of the past and how they affect the future. Now Musashi is brought into the story through his corpse being cloned and his spirit being shoved into it, typical Baki shenanigans, but the key point here is that this is an artificial process. He gets no say in the matter and so is forced into the present. Throughout the Musashi arc we see a man who doesn't clash with modern society. Sure, he was praised for his time, but times change. He is an example of the ugly past, not just of Japan, but the world. And although Musashi himself shows respect towards Retsu, it could be argued that on a more metaphorical sense his first murder, being Retsu, is an allegory for the historical crimes of Japan, since, well, you know, Retsu is Chinese. But regardless of that specific point, Musashi is clearly not seeing eye to eye with the modern world. He came from a world of survival, hence sees Yujiro as a pile of gold. To be strong in his time is to be wealthy. Pursuit of strength was not a consideration of his time, as to pursue strength was exactly the same as just living and surviving. He looked down on the fighters of the modern day because he didn't realise they had turned their hands into swords. In Musashi's time, to fight was to survive, to kill was to live. He is not a fighter, but a warrior. This is why Mitobe is the one to fight and defeat him, because he fights not as a fighter but as a warrior. He understands the difference between Musashi and everybody else. The significance of Mitobe protecting everyone else comes down to the idea that the past should not taint the present. Mitobe is someone who greatly cherishes the martial arts and those who use them, and so he cannot bear to see them tainted by a murder hobo from the past. He is a warrior, which is a big difference to a fighter. Whereas fighters live to fight, warriors fight to live. This is similar to how athletes and fighters are portrayed in the series. One of the main reasons Muhammad Ali Jr. fails in his pursuit of strength is because he fights like an athlete while trying to be a fighter. He just straddles the middle and so cannot become a true fighter, hence why he loses, but his overall arc is a topic for another video. The main cast versus Mitobe is the same. They are fighters, not warriors, so are not ready to face a warrior. Unlike athletes, they are ready to fight at any time and will happily fight to the death. But a warrior doesn't need to be ready to fight or happy to fight to the death, because every moment of their life is a fight and every moment could be their last. The reason we see Mitobe versus Jack is not to shit on Jack, but to show this difference. Jack is one of the strongest characters in the series, one who is in all ways superior to Mitobe as a fighter, and that is why he has to be the one to fall to Mitobe, to show that even the strongest of fighters lack the ability to fight a warrior. As in Baki, the difference between a fighter and a warrior is just that. It's not anything to do with strength or ability, but is down to mindset. Mitobe didn't fear the strength of Musashi, otherwise why would he try to protect Yujiro? Instead he feared the warrior's mindset and what it could do to a fighter. And this is what makes Musashi such a dangerous person and such an incredible antagonist, because he outright defies what it means to be a fighter. Sure, Jack used artificial means and Gaia turned the environment into weapons, but every antagonist throughout the story has still been a fighter. They've all chosen to fight. Whereas Musashi doesn't make a conscious choice to fight and so is not a fighter. Instead, fighting is just another everyday aspect of his life, the same as walking or breathing. His existence challenges the very identity of the series as it questions what it means to fight, which is something Baki has to take on board, though that's something we will address near the end of the video. The key point about warriors though is that they are things of the past. You don't need to fight to live anymore. The fact people live to fight is a testament to that. It's a mindset that doesn't really work in the present, which is why the ways Mitobe and Musashi interpret this mindset is so important. Mitobe considers his friends and his fellow martial artists to be an important part of his life, and so when, as a warrior, he fights to live, he also fights to help his friends live. That is the correct way to be a warrior in the modern day, and the way Musashi selfishly lives for his own survival and nobody else's is the wrong way. It might have been right back then, but now it is not. Overall, Musashi was forcibly brought to the present and so was unable to conform to it. He showcases the horrors of the past and so must be sent back. However, if we now compare him to Baki, other main new character Sukuna, we see a big difference. Sukuna was brought into the future naturally. The title was passed down over generations and then naturally reintegrated into society. Musashi, due to being forced into the present, showcases the horrors of the past, whereas Sukuna coming naturally to the present brings the beauty of the past. Ancient sumo has been presented as a true art, superior to the modern sumo. The sumo arc then highlights the importance of the past and the lessons you can learn from it. As if you look at modern sumo, it is a martial art without growth, one of stagnation and strict tradition. It's a martial art that goes against the ways of a grappler, which is presented as the ultimate way to fight, hence Baki the grappler. Modern sumo like Musashi is representative of the past, a past that needs to be moved away from. Sukuna then brings the lessons of Bakido full circle, showing how the past should be brought into the future. He is someone who carries legacy and the past on his shoulders, but at the same time looks forward and constantly develops. He is almost like a sumo grappler, one who has no qualms trying new things in order to improve as a fighter. He has no problem calling Baki a rikishi, as he left the prejudice and the gatekeeping of sumo in the past. Basically, Sukuna is someone who takes the past in order to go to the future. A complete contrast to Musashi, who took the worst parts of the past and imposed them on the present. And although there is many other overarching themes of Bakido, I think this idea of the past and how it affects the present is one of the most interesting and worthy of discussion. However, there is still more to Musashi than just this past-present talk. As what does Bakido mean? It means the path of Baki. It's a journey as he forges his own path as an adult after the events of Son of Ogre. And so what does Baki learn from Musashi? The way of the warrior. Musashi didn't train in the strictest sense, he instead lived as a warrior. Everything he did was training, as everything he did was as a warrior. Through Musashi, killing was living, and so to live was to improve your skills with the sword. But now in the modern day, killing is not living. Yet still, Baki takes on this teaching from Musashi and brings it into the present. He once again takes the best parts of the past and integrates them into the present. Baki, like Musashi, lives every moment as a warrior, but unlike Musashi, does not live to kill. Like Motobe, he took the mindset of a warrior and integrated it into the present. What he does is the same thing as Sukuna, taking something from the past and building on it with things from the present. As at least to me, that's the message of Bakido, that the past on its own should stay in the past but should never be forgotten. Instead, it should be integrated into the present for a stronger future. And well, all this is personified by Baki, who throughout Bakido has taken on the lessons of the past to improve his future as a fighter and pave his way as Baki. And well, Musashi, even if it was by showing the flaws of the past, was vitally important in teaching Baki this lesson. Comment of the week is from QWeris85, and I'm glad the video is worth the wait. If you are interested in my literary endeavours, then why not check out my books Gang, Fluid Justice and People of Fate Volume 1, available at Amazon.com. And if you want to go the extra mile in supporting this channel, then consider pledging to my Patreon, where for as little as £2.75 a month, you can get your name at the end of the video, like Hikari Desu, 7SO, Rinjak9696 and Dewey. So with all that said and done, I've been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek, and I'm signing out. Stay safe, everyone.